Alright, so it was requested that I do a video on Guinness tap handles. And that's what you guys are about to see. I'm like a couple of things of warning is that I'm going to be covering a lot here. I don't think I'm going to be able to fit all of this in the time for a TikTok or Instagram video, so you'll see the beginning of this. If you want to see the rest, you'll probably want to pop over to my YouTube channel. That's just Rain Taps over at YouTube. You'll be able to find it. If you guys have questions, I will most likely be going into some of these taps in more detail later on, but if you also want me to do a feature on other tap handles, let me know that as well. Another caveat is when we're talking about Guinness, we're really talking about like your variations on your traditional Guinness or Guinness Stout. I'm not going to cover their IPA and their or Guinness Blonde. There's a couple of other ones that are out there. I'm not going to touch on those. And then another caveat as well, sorry about all of these, is that some of these are tap handles you may not be able to find at all. A couple of them I was lucky enough to come across. I don't expect them to be easy to find in the market, and just Guinness tap handles in general in the market can be a little bit tricky to find. But with all of that said, let's get going because I'm sure you've been seeing these tap handles and you want to know a little bit more. I'm going to start out over on the left-hand side. I'm also going to jump around and show you guys a couple of other ones. The one I'm starting out with here is the Guinness kind of pub style tap handle. This is very similar to what you would see for a normal tap handle. This is actually relatively uncommon for Guinness for a couple of different reasons. First of all, they don't do a lot of taps that are this style. This does have the Guinness sticker there that is pretty much as official as you can get. So that's a totally normal looking sticker. This is a relatively common style of tap handle for beers in general, although it's relatively uncommon to see this for Guinness. This does have a couple of the normal things like the finale and the shield there, and one of the things that's also unusual for a Guinness tap is this ferrule down here. So this is your connector that connects it to the actual tap faucet, and you'll notice here this is the normal 3/16 North American threading. That means that it does work on the umbrellas and bottle opener adapters and stuff like that that I do, and it would work on your most normal taps at home. It would normally not work with a normal Guinness system because the normal Guinness systems use the nitro tap, which uses a pin mechanism. So that is the first one. This one is a Guinness tap handle. It's fairly solid, kind of cool. Is generally pretty good looking, but it is a little bit unusual for a Guinness tap handle. I'm going to jump over to the side here to what's going to be a lot more common when you see the Guinness tap handles. So this is one of the ones that is very common. If you've been at bars and you've ordered a Guinness before, there's a decent chance that you saw this tap handle or a variation on this tap handle. They've got this taller one. They also have a shorter variant on it, and both of them have a pretty much very similar design. These are ones that you'll see around at bars a lot. For any Guinness tap handles, they are still a little bit hard to find and get into your collection, but this is one that is not as hard to find. It's a really great design, fairly distinctive. This is done by Christian, if I remember correctly. It's got the harp up top with the Guinness name. It's got this this wording right here, which is the St. James Gate, Dublin, if you can read that there. And then you also have a repeat of the harp logo. There's some interesting stuff with the harp logo about Guinness and their trademark on it, and Ireland. Some other details that maybe I'll cover in some future one. And then on the back, you've got Guinness here. You'll notice here that there is a little bit of wear, and that's also the case for the top. A lot of times when you're seeing these tap handles, you'll see some wear. It's just common where you might see some wear on the paint. Sometimes you'll see some chipping or cracking or things like that, but that is just normal. So this is a very common Guinness tap handle. You'll notice down here, this is where it actually connects. So I won't cover this too much in the future of it, in the rest of them, but it's worth kind of calling this out. This is what you'd normally see for their nitro connector, and this it uses a locking pin that attaches to the nitro tap faucet. And so that means that when you pull it, so I think that you're normally pulling in or pushing it in that direction. It's going to push down, it's going to pull up the nitro system and dispense the beer, and then they can pour it appropriately. Don't mess up your Guinness pour. So that is a common Guinness tap handle. I'll touch on another common Guinness tap handle in a moment, but we're going to jump to a very unusual one. So this one is a vintage Guinness tap handle. It's just got an absolutely lovely design, very old school. This is something that is similar to what you would have seen for a number of the Guinness ads. This is something that they were doing, I want to say, kind of like 70s and 80s, around that era. So this tap handle may be around that. I know very little about this tap handle. It's hard to find them. I was very lucky to come across this and be able to put this into my collection, but it is just a great one. It is also worth noting that with this one, this is also unusual because of the fact that it's got this the standard threading here as opposed to the nitro tap. But absolutely great vintage tap handle. Now we'll get to a different vintage style that's one of my favorite ones. Just a really, really great design. You do still have to be a little bit careful with them, but I just absolutely love them. So it's got the Guinness logo, the Guinness name, it's got this kind of shield design, but that shield design is integrated with the rest of the tap handle. So it's almost like one piece. It's got an absolutely great weight to it. It's got this brass portion down on the end here. There are a couple different variations on this one. So one where you've got a shorter brass portion, and then one like you're seeing here, and then it also has the finale up there on the top. But I absolutely love this tap handle. It's super wonderful. Just a great Guinness tap. And occasionally you'll see variants on it, like this one here, which is a very similar design, although you don't have that same brass item. One of the things you'll notice here is this actually has the locking pin. That's how it connects there. But this one does have a different shield there on the front, and you'll also notice that it doesn't have the finale up at the top. But this one is very similar to this other one, and absolutely a great tap handle. I'm going to pull over a couple of other tap handles so I can introduce those ones as well. So this is another Guinness tap handle that's a relatively common Guinness tap handle. So similar to the St. James one, it's one that you may have seen if you were at a bar and they had Guinness on tap. I'm just going to call out that down here on the bottom, you'll notice that it has the threading, but it doesn't have ferrule there. That is one of those things where occasionally you'll see it like that. It should have a ferrule similar to that. So if you see it like that, you typically wouldn't want to pick it up as is. Sometimes you'll see it with a replacement ferrule that has the 3/16 threading. But this is another ceramic tap handle. This is one where you do want to check it out and see what the condition is. Sometimes they'll be in quite good condition, similar to this one, aside from the missing ferrule. Although you do want to just keep an eye out for any splintering or fracturing. That is fairly normal up at the top, but as long as it's minimal, that still can be okay. It still can work great in any personal collection. One of the things with this one is there should be two different variants of this taller one like this, as well as a shorter one, similar again to the St. James Gate one. And another thing as well is this is another one that is produced by Chrishlin. So it's another ceramic one and just a great tap overall. Here I'm actually jumping ahead a little bit, and by that I mean jumping ahead in time, because this is one of the most recent Guinness tap handles. As far as I know, this is one that they just recently released and just recently came out with. There's two different variations on it, one which is the taller one like this. Apologies, I actually have an adapter there on the bottom, but This is what I typically would refer to as the Guinness Perfect Pour. It does have another name for it. This one is done by Kirschland as well. It's got that ceramic topper, and then it's got this wooden portion down here, which is pretty cool. Overall, the design is absolutely wonderful. One of the things to call out with this, and the reason why I refer to it as the perfect pour, is because if you look on the back, it gives you the instructions for the perfect pint. So that is how you should properly pour a Guinness. Absolutely wonderful, great design. Once again, ceramic, so you do want to be careful with it, but great tap handle. Now we're jumping to a different Guinness tap. This one is another one that's just super interesting. So it was done for the 250th anniversary. It's a absolutely great looking tap. It's got a good pub style design, but it's a little bit of an unusual shape. Definitely a cool shape overall, and it does have some of the gold elements and things like that. And you'll notice down here, once again, it's got a North American style tap. It doesn't have that nitro tap, so I don't quite know why they ended up going that route, but it's super cool. Obviously, 250-year anniversary, like really, really great, and cool that they did that. It also has the finale up at the top. These ones are fairly uncommon. Typically, you'll see these in somebody's collection if they've been collecting and they were specifically looking out for that. But aside from that, it's unusual to see that pop up. And with that in mind, I'm going to cover a couple more unusual Guinness items. And these are the other Guinness items that I wanted to touch on. I will start out with this one. This one is interesting because it's not quite a tap handle. If I remember correctly, this is actually not something that would go on the faucet, so not something that you'd actually be pulling to pour a beer or a pint. If I remember correctly, this is actually something that would screw onto the top. So you'd have that bar going across, and then you'd have a separate handle that you would pull. I believe that that's the system that they use for that. If anybody has other information, definitely let me know. But with that in mind, if you look at this threading, totally different from the North American threading. This is a lot wider, so this wouldn't work on a normal tap handle. With that in mind, I do have one final one, and this one is a very unusual one that I came across. It's not from the U.S. I don't know if it was ever done in the U.S., but it is a lucite style tap handle. If you watch my some of my other videos, you'll see me covering the details on that. You'll notice that it does have the kind of element floating in there. So it's a flat element that has the lucite around it, and you'll notice that it has the same design from the front and the back, and it does have that same North American style threading there. So it's just very interesting, very unusual tap handle. If you see one like this, then if you're a Guinness fan, pick it up. It won't be easy to find another one like that. And similar with a lot of these ones, if you see a Guinness tap handle, if you want to add it to your collection, you probably want to get it while you can.